There's been much speculation over the motivations of the FETÖ group. To discuss this, Uzeyir Ok joins me now in the studio. He's a professor of psychology of religion at Haldun University in Istanbul. Thank you very much for joining us here.
Thank you very much for your having me here.
Thank you. So what is the motivation behind the FETÖ group?
Well, if we look at it from the psychological perspective, I assume several things. First, people come together to form a group because they feel insecure in the world psychologically. In inner side, they feel insecure. And then to cope with the uncertainties around the world and in the societies, especially in the societies maybe passing from the traditional one to the modern one, they are facing with different types of interpretations and they are confused. And at that point, they feel in need of finding a person to submit themselves and to hear from that person. And the most important question, I think, at that point is that we ask in psychology of religion how such a smart persons, intelligent persons who are really very good in their area, expertise area, and they are going to somebody who is just an imam. Well, I'm not derogating being an imam, but a person who is there giving all these speeches, and all these smart people going there and then submitting or doing what that kind of person say to them, and they took it as a kind of command without questioning it, without using the same reasoning that they are using in their expertise area. And this is an amazing thing. I think research on fundamentalism tries to answer to this question. One thing is, as I said, is the uncertainty and the feeling of anxiety inside to cope with this, and then they're going to a person and then they feel solidarity within a group. This is one thing. Maybe another thing is, for these people, solidarity, I mean, the group solidarity is important because, well, one of the amazing things, I'm going to say something on this, is that these groups started, for instance, defending the universalizing values. They have been in a position of helping people around in Turkey. This is very universal value, but we didn't know that this group was hiding something inside, because as we have seen in this last event last year, they did something that this is to do with the more egoistic thing, like what we call it self-enhancement. We understood that behind the scene they were working for themselves, for their own purposes, and this is one thing that they used religion for that purpose.
And actually, when we look at the past coups here in Turkey, we've never seen this kind of violence, have we? I mean, bombing off the parliament or just killing random innocent people on the streets. That never happened, really, when it comes to the coup. So looking, as you said, at the religious background, the perspective of it, can we say that the world is more isolated as we see Daesh as well, foreign fighters joining it without questioning?
That's a very good question. Yes, in fact, several years ago, when I was in a meeting in Germany, one of the colleagues asked me, what do you think about this movement in Turkey? I said, they actually asked whether this group is using violence or are they aggressive. I said, I haven't seen such a kind of things. I haven't observed at that time. And later on, when I saw all this thing, all these merciful people turn out to be a violent group and shooting to their own citizens. I couldn't understand this. I tried to explain how this could happen because they did not show any symbol, any indication that they are doing this. And later on, I developed another concept. I used the left-wing authoritarianism I'm using here. In Turkey, religious matters are really controversial. At one side, there are some people who are in favor of keeping conservative values. On the other hand, there are some liberal people that they are very sensitive. They are more sensitive than any European person in their own country, because there are some fanatics that I call them left-wing or authoritarians. Whenever they see any symbol of religion, they became suddenly furious. And I don't know how these people were conditioned. They were taught about this, that they are so angry with regard to religion. So this kind of left-wing left-wing people, authoritarian people, collaborated with this group, and then they, I think, to my view, helped each other to bomb all these innocent people in Turkey. And this is unacceptable. I think there's a collaboration. I'm not trying to save this group, but somehow this kind of thing happened, and I'm not giving only the religious thing.
And looking at the numbers as well, who were involved or who are being dismissed here in Turkey and arrested, who are said to be in connection with FETÖ terrorist organization, and looking at also the international links, because it has schools worldwide. So how come that's possible? I mean, is there a way to stop it?
I think there are certain things to be done in this country. To my view, from a religious perspective, religious education in this country should be balanced, or should be developed at a certain level to reach a consensus that different parts of the society should agree. And if there is a vacuum, if there is a shortcomings in religious education or religious institutions, this is filled by the religious groups. So these people are trained in a way that they perceive religious text in a very literal way, very strict and rigid way. This motivates them to understand religious text in an aggressive way. So they line a boundary. They think that this is ourselves and there are others. It's very strict, what we call it. It's a totalitarian kind of totalistic line boundary. So there's no fusion. There's only ourselves and others. So in order to solve this problem, I think from the historical perspective, Turkey needs a kind of consensus, not only in religious education, but also in different value orientations as well. We have to develop our core values so that people with different orientations, liberal or conservative or religious, whatever, unless they use aggression, they can come together.
Thank you very much for joining us here in the studio and for that insight, Uzeyir Ok, there with us.
Thank you very much.